I'd like to invite forward now Rabbi Mark Rothschild, a member of the Sukkot Shalom community, a rabbi, as I said, and a friend who will be offering a teaching for us this evening.
Hello. I'm Rabbi Mark Rothschild, longtime listener, first-time sermonizer. While it might not seem like it at first, Rosh Hashanah is not as straightforward as you would think. It's actually a pretty complicated holiday. Now, it didn't start out that way. Do you know what the Torah says about Rosh Hashanah? It's in Leviticus 23:27. I am not making this up. This is exactly what it says. In the 7th month, on the first day of the month, you shall have a holiday. Do not do any work. Make loud blasts. That's it. We did everything else around that. The shofar didn't come till much, much later. The Yom Kippur is laid out in the next verse, quite detailed. Practice self-denial, atone, and so forth. Much more guidance. But Rosh Hashanah, nothing. Well, it did have one additional line. It said we should also bring burnt offerings, but that was before COVID. So why do I say it's complicated? Well, on the one hand, it's the new year. We've come to celebrate creation, revitalization. It's apples and honey, it's family, it's joy. We're not just celebrating the new year. We're commemorating the creation of the universe itself. At the same time, Rosh Hashanah, we need to consider our own mortality, morality, causality, accountability, responsibility. The list goes on. It's hard work. We're asked to consider our actions last year against our ideals, who we were against who we wanted to be. This is tough stuff. Rosh Hashanah is a little bit like visiting your parents. It starts off fun, but you always end up feeling guilty. And while Rosh Hashanah is a deeply personal and introspective holiday, it's ultimately a communal event. We just finished Avinu Malkeinu. Do you hear the new, Avinu Malkeinu? New in Hebrew means it's plural. And so we're not saying, I have sinned, I have strained, have compassion on me. We're saying we have sinned. Have compassion on us. Happy, sad, me, us. It's a complicated holiday. Even the greeting, Shana Tova, is not as straightforward as you would think. Did you say Shana Tova to anybody tonight? Yeah? Many of us haven't seen each other in 2 years. Saying Shana Tova is fantastic when you don't remember their names. Shana Tova! But what does it mean exactly? I mean, we think we know. Tova is good, and Shana is year. Good year, have a good year. But one of the most amazing things about Judaism is the layers of meaning behind even the simplest stuff. Because in addition to meaning year, Shana also means repeat. You've heard of our Jewish text, the Mishnah, to repeat. And tonight, we're getting ready to repeat the year, repeat the seasons, repeat the cycle. But at the same time, the root of Shana is Shanui, which means change. That makes sense too. It's a new year. It's time for a change. Shana Tova, have a good change. So while repeat means doing the same things the same way you did it last year, which isn't easy, change means doing it completely differently, which is even harder. We're being asked to do almost two completely opposite things. On Rosh Hashanah, we are asked to be together and alone, happy and sad, to repeat what we did last year and completely change it. The good news is that our tradition has given us a hack that we can use to make this possible. The hack is the 10 days between now and Yom Kippur, the days of awe. When I was a kid, I used to think that Rosh Hashanah was warm, sunny, and happy, and Yom Kippur was kind of cold, dark, and sad. In many ways, that's partially true. But I never thought about the days in between. It wasn't until I got to rabbinical school that I learned how vital the real action of the holiday season is these 10 days between now and Yom Kippur. See, the ancient rabbis thought that Rosh Hashanah was like our first day in court, and Yom Kippur was the day we got judged. And we get 10 days to make the best case for ourselves through our prayers, actions, and reflection, and hope that God's judgment will be favorable on Yom Kippur. And if this metaphor works for you, that's fantastic. We've been using this metaphor for so many centuries now. But for some of us, this metaphor doesn't work perfectly, and that's fine too. Maybe you could be your own judge if you did what you expected yourself to do this year. But there's a risk with that too. We certainly don't want to listen to those voices in our head. As a congregant taught me last week, these guys in your head don't pay enough rent. So here's a few other ways you can think about these 10 days. Do you remember the last couple of weeks before you graduated high school or college? Full of excitement and fear and joy and all that. You went up to people that you never really liked, and you told them how much you were going to miss them. You hugged them. You just couldn't believe these people. You were going to leave them. And it was true. You would miss them. In a sense, it was kind of an apology to them and a recognition that I didn't appreciate you as much as I should have. That's these 10 days in a nutshell, right? This is the time that we say we're sorry for not being our best selves, that we say we're sorry to anyone we may have offended, and we let people know how deeply we appreciate them and how we're trying to be better. These 10 days gives us the chance to ask ourselves, am I being who I want to be? Am I spending the time the way I should? Did I really justify my existence in the universe by binge watching Ozark and Bridgerton? And maybe they're good shows. Did I spend too much time looking on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram, comparing my life to others, judging other people, and posting and posting and posting to show how amazing my life is instead of really thinking about my life? Do you know why Yom Kippur comes after Rosh Hashanah? In part, it's because the Torah tells us. I told you the two verses. But the rabbis tell us that it's because we could use these 10 days to reflect. In secular society, New Year's Eve happens, we wake up in the morning, and we jot down a couple of ideas on how we're going to be better, and we hope it sticks. Not so with these 10 days after our new year. Starting tonight, we have 10 days to think about the changes we want to make, and we get to try some of them during this 10 days and see if they fit. In fact, seeing how they fit is not a bad metaphor. It's like going to the store and buying an aspirational outfit that you think will fit, and you think, yeah, I am so gonna wear this, but then you don't. You realize it doesn't quite fit, and you haven't worn it, and so you return it within the return window so you can get credit and find something that fits better. If this metaphor works for you, you can think of these 10 days as your new attitude return window. You get to try it, see if it fits. Is this you? In fact, these days of awe are so much like a return window that they're called wait for it, the 10 days of tshuva, the 10 days of return. During these 10 days, we are asked to try to return to the person we are meant to be, who we always were. By doing some serious introspection starting tonight, we start the process to return to our most authentic selves, just in time for Yom Kippur, when the return window closes. This is super hard. There's a quote I like about change. Change is great. You go first. As the great singer-songwriter Leonard Cohen said, how can I begin anything new with all of yesterday inside of me? That's why over the next 10 days, our job is to focus on returning. Returning blends repeating and changing into one action. Returning to who we know we are. Returning to who we're meant to be. We moved my dad into a memory care facility 3 weeks ago. It's very sad, to be honest. But one of the most interesting observations I've had about this, and actually one of my kids observed it first, is that my dad does not recall his career in insurance and finance that he had for more than 40 years. Instead, he tells us that he was a watchmaker. Now, the truth is, he was a watchmaker in his early 20s, 70 years ago, before he had kids and before he felt he had to make a better living for us. He loved being a watchmaker. And I respect him and honor him for the difficult choice he made to stop doing what he loved, to stop being a watchmaker so he could support his family. But now, so many years later, this is how he sees himself, what he remembers. He's a watchmaker. I'm not asking you to quit your career or anything like that. But I would ask you, what's your watchmaking? When your memories start to fade and you try to hold on to the most essential aspect of yourself, what would you like that to be? That's what we're asked to think about over these next 10 days. That's who we want to return to, our most essential selves. We can do this. You can do this. You can do what you want to do. You can be what you want to be, who you were meant to be. You can find a new way. I'll see you in 10 days.